Hi, I'm Phoebe Sloan and welcome to the Textual Talks podcast. Today we are talking about The Merchant of Venice, one of Shakespeare's most famous comedies. We will also discuss Tulips by Sylvia Plath, and we'll explore the role of storytelling throughout time, but more on that later. Special thank you to Jake Knight for the intro music, and we'll hear more of it at the end. I'd also like to thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you learned something new from what will be discussed today. In this episode, we'll be talking about Tulips and The Merchant of Venice, and the ways in which the authors use techniques to convey the lives and cultures of their time. We'll discuss and analyse the ways in which both Shakespeare and Plath represent the emotions that have arisen through the experiences within their texts, and consider storytelling's role in illuminating human experiences. The Merchant of Venice was written around 1596 and first performed in 1605. The play is set in Venice, one of the busiest, most bustling trade ports of Shakespeare's time, and would have been well known to his audience. We know that Shakespeare set many of his plays in Italy, but with The Merchant of Venice, he also creates the idyllic, almost utopian setting of Belmont. Although The Merchant of Venice features many human experiences throughout the play, one of the most well represented is the anti-Semitism aimed towards Shylock over the course of the play. The Merchant of Venice was written in a time when racism was rife and anti-Semitic notions were commonplace. Shakespeare's representation of Shylock reflects the cultural norms of the time. However, his experience maintains its relevance since it remains a collective experience even now. Whilst negotiating alone with Antonio and Bassanio, the racial and religious tensions are raised, and Shylock says, "Sir, you spat on me on Wednesday last. You spurned me such a day. Another time you called me dog." Using emotive language to represent his experience as that of a collective one. Over the course of the play, Shylock's hatred for Christians is concreted after he finds that Jessica has fled his home, and he cries, "My daughter, oh my ducats, oh my daughter, fled with a Christian, oh my Christian ducats," using repetition to convey his panic and anger at losing his daughter to a Christian and his money. This use of anti-Semitism towards Shylock as a theme throughout the play allows Shakespeare to explore and convey the human experience of racial discrimination and the effects on Shylock as the play progresses. In Sylvia Plath's case, the poem Tulips was written in 1961 after her own venture to the hospital for a small operation to remove her appendix. Plath's poem Tulips explores her personal experience with mental illness and her desire to be alone without any connections in the world. The tulips symbolise her connections to the outside world, which Plath abhors, metaphorically describing her husband and child as little smiling hooks, whilst they smile out of the family photo. Plath is upset that in the place of her loving associations, such as her tea set, bureaus of linen, and books, she has a family photo. She uses colour symbolism of white and red to express her feelings about how at peace she is when everything is white and empty, and how red symbolises love and everything she hates. She writes about how she can hear the tulips breathe, even through their white swaddlings, and we understand that the red tulips are an unwanted gift from loved ones that even the white gift paper can't make disappear. She speaks of how the tulips are too red in the first place. They hurt her, upsetting her with their sudden tongues and their colour. But they are subtle, they seem to float, though they weigh her down. But Plath stresses how disruptive the tulips are to her and her solitude within the hospital by using the metaphor that they are a dozen red lead sinkers round her neck, keeping her from being free. Plath's use of language techniques in Tulips creates an impactful and illuminating text that demonstrates the power of storytelling and represents her personal experience in a confessional poem. By reading and analysing Tulips, I have been able to develop my understanding of human behaviours and motivations, whilst learning to link it back to the Text and Human Experiences module I'm currently studying. Plath is clearly motivated by the desire to be alone and is dealing with her depression. But Plath's individual experience is indicative of many other people's struggles and behaviours whilst dealing with depression and purposeful isolation. This poem sheds light on Plath's life and experiences, and although I do not personally share commonalities, there are many people who do and will continue to regardless of time. Although both texts cover very different aspects of human experience, they reflect the lives and cultures represented in the texts very differently. We know that Shakespeare's play uses staging and language techniques to effectively show the anti-Semitic themes, whilst Plath uses primarily language techniques, including symbolism, to highlight the importance of the tulips to her. Their very different styles allow them to convey very different human experiences, and the role of storytelling plays a big part in this, as it truly allows light to be shone upon these human experiences. The role of storytelling throughout time is important because it allows the writer to express their particular lives or cultures that are relevant to their time and important to them. Shakespeare used many different themes, but racial tensions were one of the most common throughout the play. Plath uses loneliness as hers, and there is some depression interweaved with that. Despite this, we can see that the role of storytelling is immense and omnipresent. It's important to note that although lives and cultures vary throughout time and contexts, storytelling allows human experiences to be immortalized and illuminated. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Textual Talks podcast. I hope you've learnt something today, and I hope you can take something away from it. I've been your host, and I hope you'll be tuning in for the next episode. See you there.